Good morning, students. Myself, Dr. G.S. Bhopalkar, Department of Chemistry, Rajiv Gandhi Mahavidyalaya, Mudkhed. Today, we will be discuss about the next point, that is synthesis and uses of dyes. Now, you have learned about the drugs. We have learned the introductions, classification, and the synthesis and uses of drugs. Now today we will be discuss about the next point, section B, that is synthesis of dyes. Now in introductory part, before going to start about the drugs, we should dyes, we should know about dye. What is dye? Dye is the colored substance, and when this colored substance, when it is applied with fabrics at that time, which impart a permanent color, but after getting permanent color, it is not get removed by washing. Means it is not removed by washing with water, soap, and when it is exposed in the light. Means these three points are important. These points: dye is the colored substance. When this colored substance it is applied with the fabrics, at that time it imparts a permanent color, means it gives a permanent color, but it is not, this color is not get removed by washing with water, soaps, and when it is exposed in the light. Such a substances or color compound is known as dye. Okay, here you got this definition. Dye is nothing but it is the colored substance. When it is applied with fabrics, cottons, or any material, at that time it gives permanent color, or which imparts or which develop permanent color to the fabrics, and this color is not get removed by washing with water, soap, or when it is exposed in the light. Okay, this is called as dye. Now this dye may be different. How how all the organic compounds are not dye. Means the compound may be number of types. These compounds may be different, but all the compounds are not a dye. This sentence is important. All the compounds are not dye means, for example, picric acid or trinitrotoluene. This is the structure of picric acid. This is the structure of trinitrotoluene, in which in picric acid there are 3 NO2 group and OH group. In trinitrotoluene there are 3 NO2 and 1 CH3 group as a toluene. Means all the compounds are not dye. Means, for example, both the compounds are yellow in color, means the color of these both compounds is color of these compounds are yellow, but among them only the picric acid is acts as a dye. Means among these two, from these two examples, only the picric acid is a dye, but trinitrotoluene is not a dye. Okay, because this trinitrotoluene is do not fix with cloth properly. Means this compound do not fix with cloth materials or fibers properly. Therefore, trinitrotoluene is not acts as a dye, but the picric acid is dye. Therefore, all the organic compounds are not a dye. We can't told the all the organic compounds are not means all the organic compounds are dye. Means few compounds organic compounds are acts as a dye. Okay. Now when we say about the dye, at that time dye should have some specific characteristics. Then what are the characteristics? The dye should be colored substance. This is the special character or the characteristics of dye. Means if the compound is colored, then it is dye. Means if the compound is colored in nature and it has the ability to fix with the fabrics, material or cloths, at that time that compound is considered as a dye. Therefore, dye should be colored substance. The next characteristics, it should be able to fix. It should be fixed with itself with the material from the solution. Means dye should have a ability to fix itself from the solution with the fabrics. This is important if because trinitrotoluene is also having color in nature, or this is also compound, organic compound, but this is not acts as a dye because this trinitrotoluene is not having any specific site or specific group to fix with itself with the material from the solution. That's why trinitrotoluene is not acts as a dye. Therefore, picric acid has the ability to fix itself with the material from the solution because it has OH functional group, and this OH functional group get fixed itself with the material. Therefore, the dye should be able to fix itself to the material from the solution. Now, the dye should be resist the action of water, soap and light. I have already told that because we have already discussed about the definition. After imparting color, permanent color to the substance or materials, it should not be removed by washing with water, soap and light. Means this is important characteristics. Means it should have a resistance capacity, resistance ability. It should not be removed by the action with water, soap and light. And dye should dye to the substrate very easily. This is also important because if dye is not having the capability to dye with the substrate very easily, then we cannot say this is acts as a good dye. If the compound has the ability to dye with the substrate very easily, then it is considered as a good dye. Therefore, these are the important characteristics of dye. I think you have well known about the definition of dye. These are the two compounds, among them picric acid is dye. On the basis of this history or background of dye, these are the characteristics. Okay. Now next point, the classification of dye. Now this classification of dye, the classification is based on the chemical constitution. And this chemical constitution as well as method of applications. Mean these 2 points are important. Method of application. Means dyes are classified on the basis of their chemical constitution as well as the method of applications, and on the method of applications we have to learn there are how many types of dye. Means on the basis which method we are using to dye the material or fabrics, on this method of applications the dye are classified into different types of dye. The first dye is acid dye, second dye is basic dye, third dye is direct dye, fourth is modern dye, fifth is developed dye, and last one is the wear dye. Means all these are the classification means types of dye, means there are total 6 types of dye which are based on the method of application. Okay. Now first one, acid dye. Acid dye, what are the acid dye? Acid dye are the sodium salt of acid. It may be sulfonic acid, phenolic acid group, or sodium salt of carboxylic acid group. Means the acid dye are having the sodium salt of acid, or it may contain sulfonic or phenolic. When the color of acid dyes are used, these dye of or the color of dye for acid, which is because of the presence of negative ions on the chemical structure, means COONA, SO3 dash, PH, phenolic OH dash, means O oxide, anion, O minus, means such negative ions are present on the acidic functional groups, it become a dye, and they are very bright in colors, therefore they are known as anionic dye. Means acid dye are also called as anionic dye because of the presence of negative ion on the acidic dye, they dye to the substance, material or fabrics very easily. Therefore, they are called as anionic dye. Okay. Now these dye are also always in the acidic solution, means when the cloths, fabrics or material which is stirred in the solution of dye in presence of either their salt or acid, it is smoothly dyed to the material. Means in the solutions this acid dye is used, which dyes to the clothes, fabrics from the solution or medium. The example of the acid dyes are picric acid, orange second, or naphthol yellow. All these are the example of acidic dye. Okay. Therefore, they are called as anionic dye. Now, second one, that is basic dye. What are basic dye? I think we have well known about the what are basic compounds in organic chemistry. Those compounds which containing nitrogen atom, they are called as basic amino functional group, that is NH2. And when such a basic NH2 functional group means basic dyes containing the basic amino functional group, that is NH2. And when it is protonated under the acidic conditions, means we have added the acid medium H plus ion to that NH2 functional groups. At that time it get protonated, means NH2 get converted into NH3 plus. Therefore it is protonated, means there will be the positive charges appear on the nitrogen atom. Therefore the protonated, it is get protonated by using the acidic conditions to the fibers for the formation of salt linkage with anionic or acidic group in the fibers. Means after the formation of positive charge on this nitrogen atom or basic amino group, there will be the formation of salt linkage in between the anionic or acidic group of fibers. Therefore, such a dye are called as basic dye. And because of the presence, there will be the appearance of positive charge on the nitrogen atoms. Therefore, these dye are called as cationic dye. Means acidic dye are also called as anionic dye because the color is appear due to the negative charge on the acidic functional group. And why they are basic? Because the positive charges appear on the nitrogen atom, that's why they are called as cationic dye, and they get dyed by using such a basic dye, that is crystal violets. methylene blue, methyl violets. All these are the example of basic dye. Okay. Now direct dye. What are direct dye? These direct dye are also called as substantive dye. Why they are called as substantive dye? Because these dyes to the cotton, fabrics, materials or wool. These direct dye are used to dye the cotton as well as wool and silk. When these dyes are applied to the material by immersing fabrics into hot solution of dye, at that time then it is removed and dried. Means the method of application for the use of this direct dye, these dyes are applied with the material. This material may be the cotton, wool or silk. These dyes are applied with the material. How? By immersing to the fabrics. By immersing fabrics into hot solution of dye. Means first of all we have to prepare the hot solution of dye, then we have to dip or immersing all these our material, that is cotton, wool, silk, into the hot solution of dye, then it get dyed by using the direct dye. For example, Congo red, naphthol yellow and Meritus yellow. These are the example of direct dye, and these direct dye are also called as substantive dye. Okay. Now next one is modern dye. What is modern dye? Modern dye are also called as objective dye. Direct dye are also called as substantive dye, and modern dye is called as adjective dye. What is the role of modern dye? These dye, that is modern dye, are not used directly dye to the cotton, wool and silk. Cotton, wool and silk, it is not directly used likely to the direct dye, but hence it is required mordant. We have well known about the mordant. Means when the material, that is cotton, wool or silks, are not directly used with the direct dye, at that time it required some mordant, and this mordant is the substance which is taken up by the fibers. Means first, what is the mordant? It is the substance or chemical compound which is taken up by the fibers from the material, and then dye can be absorbed by the substance which is already taken up by the fibers. Means meaning is that first of all the modern dye, these modern dye called as adjective dye, they are not used directly to dye the cotton, wool and silk, but it required moderns. Okay. Means modern dye means the modern is, what is the modern? Modern is the substance which is taken up by the fibers. Means first of all this chemical substance which is get absorbed by the fibers, and later on this modern dye, means this dye can be absorbed by the substance which is already taken up by the fibers. Means first of all we have to apply the modern dye, and after that it will absorb the any other dye. Therefore, such a substance is known as mordant dye. Okay. Now these are called as adjective dye, and they are not directly uses, but direct dye are, they can directly uses. This is the difference in between the directive dye and mordant dye. Okay. For example, mordant maybe these mordant may be the acidic tannin A or basic salt of these metals, that is chromium, aluminium, tin or iron. in nature. Now, when the acid dye is used with basic mordant and vice versa, means this is the method of applications. Means when we use acid dye, at that time we have to use basic mordant. These are the mordant. This is the acidic mordant. These are the basic mordant. If we are using the acidic dye, then we have to use basic mordant. If we are using the basic dye, then we have to use acidic mordant. Means with the help of these both the material that compounds, that is dyes and mordants, the material or the fibers can be colored. Okay. Now the modern clothes, what is the procedure or what is the method of application when the mordanted clothes, means first of all we have to dip the cloth in the mordant dye, means mordanted cloth. This the mordanted may be acidic or basic. Okay, when the mordanted cloth dipped in the solution of dye which absorb the dye and develop the color to the cloths. And in this method, we can use any dye, that is acidic dye or basic dye, with the mordant. Okay. Now this is about the modern dye. Now developed dye. So what are developed dye? Developed dye are also called as azotic dye, or it is also called as ingrained dye. In such a cases, the such a dyes can produces the color within the cloth itself. Within the cloth itself. Why? Because of the chemical action between the two reactant, and it is called as coupling reactions. For example, the freshly cloth can be up dipped in the alkaline solution of phenol or resorcinol, then immersed in alcohol solution of diazo compound. Means when the diazo compound is treated with the phenol or resorcinols, at that time there is a coupling reaction is takes place in an alkaline solution, and then the color will be developed to the clothes or material. Okay, therefore this reaction is called as coupling reactions, and such a dye are called as developed dyes. Okay, this is about the developed dye. Now what is wet dye? Wet dyes are insoluble in water, but after reduction it becomes soluble in water. Before reduction they are not soluble in water, but after reduction they are soluble in water. Means we have to reduce this wet dye by reduction reactions, it become a soluble, and such dyes are used to dye the vegetables and animal fibers. Vegetables and animal fibers directly. Okay, and the examples is are indigo dye or anthracnone. These are the example of wet dye. Means in this way, dear students, in this way today we have discussed about the definition of dye, characteristics of dye, classification of dye which is based on the chemical constitutional method of application, and these have been divided into 6 types, that is acid dye, basic dye, direct dye, modern dye, developed dye, and wet dye. Okay, now today we will be stop here in the session, and in the next session we will be discuss in the on the next point, and thank you.